My wife thought I had kidnapped her lover, so she threw our 3-year-old daughter into a pit of venomous snakes. I cried and begged on my knees for her to save our daughter, but she was convinced they were toy snakes and kicked the ordinary. She even accused me of spreading rumors with our daughter's life because her lover faked an illness. I rammed the door to get our daughter to the hospital, but she hung up on me and had someone lock the door. I begged for the antidote, but they deliberately smashed the glass vial. In the end, my daughter died of poisoning, and the so-called kidnapping was a state act by them both. She also tore up her daughter's memorial photo and threw the urn into a bonfire, following her lover's absurd advice. She sent our daughter's body to the crematorium and had me admitted to Oakwood Psychiatric Hospital. I allied with her enemies to bring her down, and at that moment, when she discovered her lover had deliberately replaced the toy snakes with venomous ones, she frantically embraced him and jumped into the pit of snakes to atone by self-immolation. On the day of our daughter's 3rd birthday party, my wife tied her up completely and threw her into the reptile exhibit at the city's zoo simply because her Atlas had been kidnapped. Taylor immediately ascertained that I was behind it. She gripped my throat tightly. Didn't I warn you not to lay a finger on him? Yet you dare to ignore my words completely. Since that's the case, then let our daughter suffer the consequences of harming him in your stead. After saying that, she waved her hand, and countless pythons crawled out from all sides, coiling round our daughter's body, encircling her completely. Terrified, I fell to the ground, begging on my knees, pleading desperately, Taylor, I was wrong. Chris is so young, she's only 3. And she's terrified of snakes. Please, let her out, okay? I promise from now on, you'll stay far away from you and Henry, and you'll never bother him again. But Taylor sneered, this is just the beginning. Since you harmed the most important person to me, you'll make sure you watch your most beloved suffer. Disbelieving, I rolled with a heartbroken cry, but she's your daughter too. How could you be so cruel? Taylor's only response was to gently cradle your visibly pregnant belly. So what? I already have a better choice. With that, she turned and left without a backward glance. I turned around and immediately recognized the snake biting our daughter's neck as a bandit krait. I ran out frantically and stopped Taylor, who was about to leave. Chris was bitten by a snake. It's venomous. Hurry, hurry and get her out. There's still time to get her to the hospital. Taylor, I'm begging you. But she kicked me hard, knocking me to the ground. Ron, stop pretending. I already replaced all the snakes in there with toy snakes. Where will venom come from? Her kick landed directly on the wound I sustained the day Chris was born when I fell in excitement and required 9 stitches. The pain made my whole body tremble, but I couldn't spare a thought for the pain. Scrambling and crawling on my knees before Taylor. No, that's not it. That snake is highly venomous. I recognize it. If she doesn't get to the hospital within an hour, Chris' life will be in danger. Have you forgotten what day it is today? It's Chris' birthday. Are you just going to stand there and watch her die? A flicker of warmth finally appeared in Taylor's cold, harsh eyes, because she knew better than anyone how much her daughter had been looking forward to her mother taking her to the zoo today. But over the effort, instead she ruthlessly threw her into the reptile exhibit. Taylor hesitated for a moment, just about to step inside with me, when Henry, who was beside her, clutched his chest and collapsed into her arms. Willow, you know perfectly well that I was kidnapped by your people and driven in here 2 days ago. Onyx finally has time to be with me today, and you're deliberately lying about the child being bitten by a venomous snake, just to make her feel sorry for you and go back with you, aren't you? Hearing this, Taylor's face painted instantly, and she angrily pushed me away. Ron, have you caused enough trouble? Nah, just vying for attention. You dare to spread rumors using our daughter's life. I think you've truly lost your mind. I'm warning you. If I ever hear you curse our daughter again, don't blame me for being ruthless. With that, she turned and left with Henry without hesitation. I stumbled to my feet and ran towards the exhibit, only to see our daughter struggling to breathe, both her eyes turning dark breath. I frantically begged for help, but the zoo staff said the door couldn't be opened without Taylor's explicit order. Suppressing my grief, I stubbornly called Taylor's phone, but she immediately hung up, watching our daughter's breath grow weaker and weaker. I lost all reason and directly rammed my body against the glass door. After what felt like an eternity, it finally cracked open. In an instant, shards of glass cut my skin, but I ignored the pain. Picked up our daughter's body, and raised it. As if sensing my approach, he spoke brokenly, blood trickling from her mouth. Daddy, it hurts so much. This is for mommy. I looked down at the drawing in our daughter's hand, already crumpled and distorted, clearly depicting a woman's portrait. My heart was in so much pain and felt like it would explode. I bit down hard on my lip to barely keep my emotions in check. I tightly embraced her frail body. I effortlessly wiped away my tears and softly spoke, "Chris, don't be scared. Daddy's taking you to the hospital right now." With that, I effortlessly flagged down a car and rushed to the hospital. But when I ran into the emergency room for help, the doctor looked at the child's wound and shook his head at me. "Bitten by a venomous snake. How? Then it's over, because the hospital's only vial of antidote was just taken by a woman obsessed with pampering her husband. I heard her husband had a sore on his foot, and she wanted to use it for cosmetic purposes, saying she was afraid of scarring. I couldn't hear anything else the doctor said. My mind just went blank with a ringing explosion. At that moment, I had only one obsession: to save my daughter. She was only 3 years old. I urgently grabbed the doctor's arm and screamed hysterically, "Where is that person? You'll beg her. If she'll just give me the antidote, you'll do anything she asks." The doctor was startled by my frantic appearance and immediately told me she was in a luxury ward on the top floor. So I placed their daughter in the observation room and rushed non-stop to the top floor. Opening the ward door, I saw Tira massaging Henry's feet. At that moment, I froze. So, the woman the doctor called obsessed with pampering her husband was Tira. But I couldn't care less about being heartbroken. I humbly bent down. "Please, I beg you, give me the antidote. My daughter is waiting for it to save her life." Hearing this, Tira's brows furrowed, and she was about to speak, but Henry's tears fell before hers. "Willow, it's bad enough you caused my injury, but now you're even trying to snatch the antidote I need for scar removal. Are you doing this on purpose? You just want to get Onyx's attention, so you're lying about our daughter dying." No sooner had he spoken than Tira stepped forward and gripped my throat. "Ron, you truly have no remorse. You'll say anything just for vying for attention. Now you even dare to curse your own daughter." I desperately shook my head, struggling to speak. "No, that's not how it is. Chris is right here." Before I could finish, Tira roughly threw me to the ground. "Fine, you want the antidote, then kneel down to Henry and beg on your knees. If you do it 100 times, he'll give it to you." I looked up in disbelief, meeting Tira's utterly cold eyes. The thought of our daughter's body turning black and purple made me kneel on the ground without hesitation and begin begging on my knees. 1, 2, 3. Blood from my forehead streamed down my chin, staining the ground. When the 100th ball was complete, I shakily stood up and, filled with hope, asked, "Can I have the antidote now?" Henry, a small look on his face, picked up the antidote vial and walked towards me. Just as I reached out, he simply let go. The next second, the glass vial shattered on the floor. I was in disbelief, but Henry leaned down and whispered in my ear, "Idiot, how could I possibly save your daughter? She should have died a long time ago otherwise. How could Onyx's and my baby be the sole heir to the James Corporation?" My hope was extinguished, and I instantly lost all reason. I leaned and pinned Henry to the bed, gripping his throat tightly. "You killed my daughter. You'll make you pay with your life." I used all my strength, completely ignoring Tira's furious shouts behind me, squeezing Henry's throat until his eyes rolled back. He struggled desperately for help, but my mind was filled only with our daughter's desperate image, and I tightened my grip. The next second, an electric current surged through me. Pus began to seep from the glass-cut wounds on my skin with the electric pulse, and I convulsed in pain on the floor. I looked up and met Tira's cold, harsh gaze, and saw the stun gun in her hand. "Rowan, I think you've gone mad. How dare you hurt Henry right in front of me? If he has even one scratch on him, I swear I won't forgive you." I laughed, tears streaming down my face, pointing at Tira. I spoke in despair. "Yes, I'm mad. You drove me mad, Tira. For him, you're trying to kill our daughter." The woman frowned deeply upon hearing this, looking at me with displeasure. "What nonsense are you talking about? How could I kill our daughter? I already told you those snakes were fake." Just then, my phone rang in my pocket. Seeing it was the hospital number, I quickly answered. "Mr. Rowan, your daughter's organs are now failing. She only has one last breath left. Please come quickly." I couldn't hear anything else the doctor said. I only felt a gaping hole ripped open in my chest, a pain so intense I couldn't breathe. I bolted towards the door, but Henry, who was beside me, suddenly screamed, "Help, Onyx. He's going to stab me." Hearing this, Tira immediately ordered the bodyguards outside the door to stop him. Instantly, several massive bodyguards pinned me down. I charged wildly like an out-of-control bull, shouting repeatedly, let me go, let me go. I need to see my daughter. She's waiting for me. She's waiting for me." Tears streamed uncontrollably from my eyes, only to be met with Tira's disgusted expression. He picked up the sedative from the nearby medical tray and walked towards me. I shook my head in despair. No, the next second, The cold needle pierced my festering skin, and my vision gradually blurred. Before losing consciousness, Tira's cold voice reached my ears. The man has gone mad. Send him to Oakwood Psychiatric Hospital. I had a very long dream. In the dream, Tira had just found out he was pregnant. Her face filled with the joy of becoming a mother for the first time. She excitedly threw herself into my arms. This is wonderful. Ron, we finally have a baby. Don't worry. You'll definitely be a good mother. You'll never let your baby suffer even the slightest harm. 10 months later, Tira successfully gave birth to our daughter, and her as still held only us, father and daughter. She would come home on time every day, cook for us, and even canceled all social engagements just to lull our daughter to sleep. Back then, if I got a hangnail or our daughter cried once, she would be concerned for half the day. But later, with Henry's appearance, everything changed. She was no longer the loving wife she used to be, nor the doting mother to Chris. The scene in the dream shifted, and suddenly Chris' pain voice appeared. Daddy, I hurt so much. Save me. Please save me. Anxiously, I reached for her, only to find my hands empty. I abruptly woke up, the smell of disinfectant filling the air around me. As consciousness slowly returned, I tore off the blankets and stumbled towards the emergency room. But when I searched every bed, I couldn't find our daughter. Just as I was frantic and at a loss, I overheard the nurses talking. That little girl bitten by the venomous snake yesterday was so pitiful. She could have been saved. Just one shot of the antidote and she would have been fine. But in the end, she was dragged to her death, her face already black when she passed away. My heart instantly sank to the bottom. I grabbed the nurse and asked tremblingly, "Where is she? Where is my daughter?" The nurse was startled and stammered after a long pause. She should have been in the morgue. But Mr. James took a look and said such a disgusting corpse won't clash with the fetus in her belly, so he had someone throw the body in the crematorium behind the mountain. All the blood in my body instantly froze. I ran frantically towards the back of the mountain, our daughter's everyday smiles flashing through my mind, praying for a miracle to happen. But when that familiar figure appeared on the mound of dirt, my legs shivered and I knelt straight down. Chris, I desperately crawled over, pulling our daughter's body tightly into my arms, my trembling hand touching her face, which no longer bore much resemblance to mine. Unable to hold back any longer, I suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. This was my own flesh and blood. How could it not hurt? Yet, just like this, she was brutally killed by her own birth mother. How ridiculous. After an unknown amount of time, I wiped away my tears, handled our daughter's funeral arrangements alone, and with a dead heart dialed that person's number. Hello, even you always wanted to bring Tira down. I can help you, but you have to agree to one condition. After hanging up, I took a taxi back to the estate, holding our daughter's ashes. Pushing the door open, I found the swing set where our daughter used to love sitting, dismantled and scattered in pieces to the side. In its place was a huge decorative garden spinner. My heart gave a sudden pang of pain, and I clutched the death certificate in my hand tightly. In a daze, I recalled the day of our daughter's naming ceremony. Her exciting Tira was spending 3 days and nights building this two-person swing set, saying she would be responsible for pushing both of us from behind. But now, everything had changed in the end. I couldn't bear to look anymore. So I rushed to our daughter's room and gathered a few of her favorite toys to put into the metal basin, praying they would make her daughter a little happier. After all, life had been too painful for her. Just as I was burning the last item, Henry burst in, kicking over the metal basin on the floor. Then he glanced at our daughter's memorial photo, a small look on his face. "Oh, so she finally died, huh?" My ridiculous claim that the antidote could remove scars wasn't for nothing then. "Oh, by the way, did you know, your daughter didn't even close her eyes before she died. Onyx was originally going to see her, but I faked a stomachache, so she just had someone remove the body and throw it away. Isn't that hilarious?" As he spoke, Henry clapped his hands in approval. My entire body, my very organs, instantly erupted in searing pain. My eyes bloodshot. I crazily grabbed Henry's ear and slammed his head against the wall. Again and again, without mercy. Henry's face was covered in blood from the impacts, but he seemed indifferent, his face full of mocking laughter. "You don't actually think this will avenge your daughter, do you? Let me tell you, it's too early. This is just the beginning." As he spoke, Henry pulled a voodoo doll full of needles from his pocket and threw it into the metal basin. Then he immediately knelt before me, as if he had suffered immensely. "Well, I was wrong. Please don't curse my child like this. He's innocent." Before I could even process what he meant, the next second, I was violently kicked away, my head hitting the edge of the bed, blood streaming down my forehead. I saw Tara gently holding Henry in her arms. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he was about to faint at any moment. Relo, it's funny if you hurt me. But how could you be so malicious as to cast such a curse on Onyx's unborn baby? Before I could speak, Tara threw the doll at my face. Rowan, how dare you? Only then did I notice that doll had Henry's accursed effigy written on it, along with the drawing of a baby. I couldn't help but let out a scoff at the clumsy frame-up, yet she didn't even ask, she just condemned me. Seeing me like this, Tara wanted to step forward and reprimand me, but her peripheral vision caught sight of our daughter's memorial photo and the remaining toys in the metal basin, and she was instantly engulfed in rage. What do you mean by this? You actively ruined our daughter's photos, making them blank. All for jealousy and lying for attention. Rowan, do you even deserve to be a father anymore? At the mention of our daughter, I, with bloodshot eyes, furiously looked at her. Tara, don't you dare mention our daughter, you murderer. Seeing my grief-stricken and furious expression, which left no doubt of its sincerity, Tara hesitated for a moment, about to say something. Henry timidly shrank into her arms, whispering, Onyx, the photo is so scary, I'm scared, and the baby is scared too. The woman, who had just shown a trace of hesitation, instantly became cold and rigid. She picked up her daughter's memorial photo, a ruthless expression on her face. I frantically shook my head, pleading desperately in no terror. This is our daughter's only. Before I could finish, she tore the memorial photo in half down the middle. Looking at our daughter's torn photo, my heart felt as if it had been acting too. Tears welled uncontrollably in my eyes. I glared at her fiercely. Tara, one day you'll regret this. You'll be waiting. The woman scoffed. It's just a photo, isn't it? You'll never regret it. No sooner had she spoken than Henry, who was behind her, clutched his stomach and screamed, "Oh, what is that thing? It feels so ominous. I can't even breathe." Seeing it was our daughter's gun, I rushed forward to snatch it, but Tara violently pushed me to the ground. The woman opened it, saw the ashes, and immediately glared at me furiously. Rowan, are you doing this on purpose, bringing these disgusting things specifically to scare Henry and make him uncomfortable? Did I never realize before how malicious you are? I bit my lip hard, suppressing the hatred in my heart. Tara, give it back to me. You'll move out of the house right now and never bother you again. Tara frowned. What do you mean by that? What do you mean move out? And Grace, why don't I see you coming back to greet me? I let out a cold laugh. She still had the nerve to mention our daughter, but before I could speak, Henry took the arm from her and offered it to me. I quickly reached for it. The next second, he loosened his grip and the arm fell directly into the metal basin, vanishing without a trace. No, I screamed until my voice broke, plunging my hand into the metal basin, my hand blistering with burns of various sizes. Yet I couldn't even find a trace of our daughter's ashes. I lay sprawled on the ground, wailing hysterically. Raw Tara, looking at me as if I were insane, turned and walked away with Henry in her arms, leaving me with only one sentence: you'll pretend nothing happened today. Tomorrow, bring Chris to the river celebration. You'll publicly declare her the first heir to the James Corporation. Will that be enough? I remained silent, clutching the rodent box tightly in my hands. The next day, at the river celebration, Tara, unable to find me or our daughter, lashed at her at us. Where are they? Why haven't you found them yet? Athos trembled, about to speak, when his phone rang. Seeing it was a private investigator, Tara thought they had found them, so she told Athos to put the call on speaker, only to hear the trembling voice on the other end say, "Mr. James, I just conducted a thorough investigation and discovered that your daughter passed away 2 days ago." Silence fell over the entire venue. Everyone's expressions suddenly tensed. Tara herself swayed, almost collapsing to her knees. She clutched the table, forcing back the panic in her heart. What do you mean my daughter passed away 2 days ago? How is that possible? Who gave you permission to curse her? Are you tired of living? And Mr. Rowan, where is he? I need to see him immediately. The other party was terrified, and when he spoke again, his voice was filled with dread. "Mr. James, I'm not lying to you. I just found out your daughter was bitten by a venomous snake 2 days ago and died of neurogenic shock due to not receiving the antidote in time. Even her death certificate was personally handled by your husband, Rowan." As for Mr. Rowan, he took this morning's flight to Lily, but a bad premonition instantly rose in Tara's heart, and she roared, "About what? Speak quickly." The voice on the other end stammered, taking a long time to gather courage before speaking. "But that flight this morning crashed and fell into the sea." Boom. Something seemed to explode in Tara's mind. She stumbled to the side, muttering continuously, "No, it can't be. This is impossible. How could Chris die? Just a few days ago, she was clinging to my leg calling for mommy. You must have made a mistake. Yes, you definitely made a mistake. And Mr. Ron, how could he have left on a plane? Why didn't I know? Tara spoke, trying to deceive herself, but the next second the photo sent by the detective shattered her last shred of hope. In the photo, the name Ruby was clearly written on the death certificate. No one was more familiar with this name than Tara, because this was the name she had prayed for, taking a step and begging on her knees with each one at St. Jude's Chapel in the Bury Mountains on the day of her daughter's naming ceremony, only to ensure her daughter's life on peace and well-being. But now, this name seemed to mock her ignorance, shaking Tara's entire body, making her inside sick, and leaving her speechless. The next photo was of my plane ticket, and the identification information on it was unmistakable. Tara froze for a while before finding her voice again. Trembling uncontrollably, she said into the phone, keep investigating for me, if he's alive. I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his body. As long as he's not found, Mr. Ron, he must be alive. Tara roared out the last few words, almost with all her strength. The other party was also severely frightened and quickly ran up to investigate. Just then, Atos hurried over, holding the recently retrieved surveillance footage. Tara flipped through it as fast as she could. When she saw Henry replacing all the toy snakes she had prepared with highly venomous pythons, her fingertips clenched, making a sound. And her eyes instantly turned bloodshot. The video then showed that after she left with Henry that day, our daughter's breathing failed, and her entire body turned purple, while I knelt helplessly on the ground, desperately pleading with the staff and finally, my call to her was directly hung up. The next second, I resolutely charged at the glass door, once, twice, thrice. After an unknown amount of time, the heavy glass door was smacked open by me, my body covered in cuts. Those bloody red wounds deeply pierced Tara's heart. For our daughter, I could disregard everything, but what about her? She was secretly following round behind our backs, and even when our daughter's life was threatened by Fred, she chose to ignore it, allowing our daughter to be dragged to her death at this very moment. Tara's heart felt as if it had been hurriedly gouged out, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. She couldn't sit still any longer. She let it roar, grabbed her teeth, and rushed inside. Her black sedan was like a sharp sword, turning what normally took half an hour into a mere 10 minutes, reaching the estate at maximum speed. But when she opened the door, the inside was pitch black, with no sign of anyone. In Tara, holding onto a sliver of hope, shouted loudly, "Ron 909, I know everything. It's my fault. Please come out and hit me, scold me. Just don't hide from me. I'm scared. I'm scared I'll never see you and our daughter again." Tara kept calling, but no one answered her. Tara suppressed the panic in her heart, wanting to search for my whereabouts. Just then, a phone on the coffee table caught her eye. "This is Ron's phone. He purposely left it for me." Tara excitedly opened it. The password was still their daughter's birthday, but after seeing what was inside, Tara's heart sank completely, and boundless terror made her clutch her chest, finally collapse into the floor. Inside were all of Henry's provocations toward me, his whispered words by my ear in the hospital, saying that our daughter should die so that his and Tara's health could be the sole heir to the James Corporation, and how, upon hearing the doctor say I needed to see our daughter one last time, he immediately fainted as if I were about to kill him, only to reveal a smug smile the next second. Tara stared blankly at the phone's contents, her expression somewhat dazed. How had she never noticed that seemingly pure and innocent Henry was, in reality, a ruthless and calculating person? Thinking of this, Tara quickly retrieved the estate's surveillance footage. When she saw Henry pull the doll from his pocket and curse her daughter, and then pretend to accidentally drop the entire ring into the metal basin, Tara's heart was utterly enraged, her eyes turned bloodshot, and her gaze was as venomous as if it had been poisoned. She grabbed her teeth and rushed to the hospital, but when she stood at the ward door, listening to the arrogant conversation inside, Tara realized how terribly wrong she had been. Inside the ward, two men stood by Henry's bed, their faces full of smug satisfaction. "Good son, your plan was indeed the best, having me and your Lucas pretend to be kidnappers to abduct you not only saved money but also effortlessly got rid of that man and his daughter along and too. Bro, you don't know how much I thought. Wanted to laugh that day when I put on a white coat and told your Onyx that snake venom could remove scars. I almost couldn't hold it in several times. How stupid she was to actually believe it." Henry shot him Maguire. "She believes such outrageous claims because she cared. But it was all worth it. Now all obstacles have been cleared. No one can stop me from marrying Onyx, and you'll be the rightful Mr. Jimmy from now on. Henry's face was beaming with smoke satisfaction, but Tara, standing behind the door, was rigid. She clutched her heart in pain, tears swelling in her eyes, because she was also one of the culprits responsible for our daughter's death, and Henry's so-called kidnapping was nothing but a state act he orchestrated himself. Yet Taylor, without even investigating, pinned the crime on me. Even leading to our daughter's death, fragmented memories instantly strung together, gradually piecing together the truth of the matter. At this moment, a complex mix of anger, dismay, and shock flooded Taylor's heart. Her entire being exuded a terrifying aura. Just as she was about to kick the door open, it was opened from the inside. She came face to face with Henry's eyes, remembering their conversation inside just moments ago. Henry's smug smile immediately vanished, replaced by a purely terrified expression. He stammered for a long time before asking, "Onyx, how did you get here?" But before he could finish speaking, Taylor reached out and ripped his throat. "Onyx, cough, you. What are you doing?" Taylor's fingers tightened sharply. "You have the nerve to ask why I'm here, Henry. Who gave you the guts to dare to harm Rowan and my daughter?" Henry was so scared he started crying. "Onyx, I didn't. Are you misunderstanding something? How could I harm Willow? He's the one who kept harming me." With those words, Henry switched to a puppy dog act, as if he had suffered immensely. But this time, the woman didn't embrace him tightly as he expected. Instead, she violently pushed him to the ground. "Stop pretending. You're still pretending." At this moment, the two men beside Henry, wearing masks, saw the situation and tried to seize the opportunity to escape, but Taylor's attacks kicked them to the ground and tore off their masks as their familiar faces were revealed. All their lies unraveled. Taylor's eyes were terrifyingly red, and she tightened her grip, squeezing Henry's throat until his eyes rolled back. "What more is there to say? It was your state kidnapping act, and then you replaced all the toys weeks after repairing the soul with real python roll to kill my daughter, wasn't it, Henry? You scum, you dared to harm Rowan and our child. I'll damn well kill you. I'll make you pay with your life." As the force of her grip increased, the sensation of choking made Henry frantically feel his limit. Out of fear, he involuntarily urinated, still begging for mercy. "Onyx, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I was just momentarily possessed by evil when I sought someone to harm him. I was just afraid someone would drive Ari for attention. Please, I can't breathe. Onyx, you're still carrying my child." At the mention of the child, Taylor's hand froze, and she violently pushed him aside. At that moment, Henry forgot all about dignity. Lying on the ground in a pathetic state, gasping for air, having survived the ordeal, he cautiously crawled to the woman's side, trying to curry favor. "Onyx, I know I was wrong. I'll never upset you again, for the sake of our child. Please forgive me, okay?" Henry was certain Taylor wouldn't do anything to him. After all, she had been overjoyed when she found out she was pregnant, and now that child was his free pass. But he would have thought Taylor's eyes were as venomous as if they had been poisoned. And her entire demeanor became terrifying. "After all this, you still dare to mention the child to me? You don't actually think this bastard will make me let you go, do you? If my mother hadn't pressured me so much to have a boy, and if Ron hadn't hurt his body when Reese was born, do you think I would have gotten pregnant with your child?" With that, he quickly stepped forward and brutally kicked him in the groin. Henry cried out in alarm, his eyes filled with lingering fear. But the woman gave him no chance, relentlessly grinding her foot into his groin, until dark red foam began to stream from his inner thigh. Henry writhed in agony on the floor, continuously begging for mercy, but Taylor didn't even glance at him. Directly ordering the bodyguards outside the door, "Throw this man into the reptile exhibit at the city zoo. Since he brought this upon himself, he should enjoy it. Remember, no one is to open the door without my command. I want him to remember the price of harming Rowan and my daughter." Urgently, Taylor rushed home, intending to arrange a dignified funeral for her daughter, but when she got home, she couldn't even find a single photo of her daughter. The photo of the memorial photo she had torn in half made Taylor's pain so intense he couldn't stand straight. It wasn't until a drawing lying on the floor in the nursery caught her eye with the towards mommy clumsily scrawled on it that Taylor realized it was a portrait of her drawn by Chris. It was also stained with blood, whether mine or Chris, she didn't know at that moment. Taylor collapsed exhaustedly onto the cold floor. Feeling dizzy and utterly unable to get up, she covered her face and began to cry agonizingly. What awful things had she done? These were the two people she loved most. How could she dare? How could she possibly hurt them? Taylor felt her blood run cold, a torrent of blood flowing from her body, until she finally fainted. When she opened her eyes again, Atos was urgently waiting her. She quickly sat up, asking hopefully, "Is there any news from Mr. James Melton's shook her head sadly. "No. You just had an abortion, and the doctor asked me to wake you up." "Oh, Mr. James." Henry was bitten by a snake, teeth completely discolored, and his breathing had stopped. The so Steffi asking if you want him sent for medical treatment. Tara scoffed. "Medical treatment? He's better off in hell." After saying this, she drove to the reptile exhibit at the city zoo. There she saw Henry trembling in fear, covered in lari pythons. In that moment, Tara felt a sharp pain. She thought about whether her daughter had been just as afraid back then, so small. When the man saw her, a flicker of hope ignited within him. "Onyx said quickly, take me to the hospital for antitoxin. I was bitten by a venomous snake, and I feel terrible." The Roman let out a soft laugh. "Of course, I brought the antitoxin for you." With that, she opened the cooler she was holding, revealing it was filled with vials of antitoxin. Henry's face instantly lit up with triumph. "Sure enough, this woman still cares about me." But the next second, Tara smashed all the glass vials onto the ground, shattering them instantly. "How could I possibly save you? I just want you to experience their despair." Henry's hope was instantly cracked, and he suddenly burst into laughter. "What? Now that they're dead, you're putting on a show of devotion. Too late, isn't it? Tara, without your help, how could I have read to living people disappear so easily? In other words, you're the real murderer." Fangs paused on Tara's forehead. "Shut up." She grabbed a stun gun from a bodyguard and pressed it against Henry's festering wound. After an unknown amount of time, the man convulsed. Foaming at the mouth, Tara wiped her hands with disgust, then bought a bouquet of whim and placed it on the windowsill. "Your own. Chris, I've made the people who hurt you pay the price, but I miss you so much. Can I see you one last time?" But before she could fully process her grief, Atlas hurriedly called. "Mr. James, something's happened." Roe, with 52% of the shares, has allied with the other major shareholders and directly removed you from River. Tara could no longer hear what Atlas was saying. All she knew was that the 52% figure was the birth she had given Chris on the date he was born. She said it was a symbol of her love for us, and if she ever betrayed us, this would be her punishment, leaving her with nothing. Tara left, clutching her chest. Only then did she realize she truly hated him, which was why she had sold the shares to rival River. But she didn't feel sad at all. Instead, she knelt on the ground, clutching an old family photo, crying hysterically. When she opened her eyes again, her surroundings were unfamiliar. But it was clear the house belonged to someone with good taste. Awake, just as I was lost in thought, a familiar voice spoke. I turned my gaze to the woman beside me, dressed in a designer gown. My eyes instantly welled up. Seeing me like this, she looked furious. Yet her words were incredibly gentle. "Ron, for her, you let yourself get like this. Was it worth it?" Her fingertips trembled as she traced the countless scars on my arms, her voice filled with regret. "You have no idea how much I regretted it that day, when I picked you up and saw your injuries, and how disoriented you were. If I had known, 5 years ago, I would have fought tooth and nail to get you back." Memories flooded my mind. The person before me was Zero, the arch-rival of River. She was also Tara's and my former friend. Drew had pursued me for 7 years, ever since Talia. But back then, I only had eyes for Tara, and Drew was Tara's best friend from the same dorm. Back then, she always found excuses to show up on our dates. Sometimes I found her annoying. But whenever Tara's student council duties delayed our plans, Drew was always the first to appear. On the day Tara and I got married, she was completely drunk. It was the first time in senior cried like a child. The next day, Drew left the country. In just a few years, she established River, the largest brewery company in the country, and also River's strongest competitor. My thoughts drifted, and I smiled. "Don't make fun of me. Regardless, thank you for helping me get out, yo, and congratulations, you're now the largest shareholder of River." Drew wasn't as happy as he'd expected. "You don't actually think I run a River, do you?" "Let me tell you, I want you. That's why I've constantly been at odds with River, competing for the same products or to get closer to you." My eyelid twitched and I looked at her in disbelief. But her eyes were filled with undeniable love. "Drew, you know what I've just been through. Right now, I just want to be left alone." She nodded. I know. Don't worry. I'll be by your side." Drew was true to her word. From then on, she stayed by my side constantly, except when she was at work. As for me, besides trying to clear my head, I was researching a 3D skill. It was to restore my daughter's memorial photo and the few remains it found from the fire. 6 months later, the research was successful. I finally saw my daughter's long-side image again and cried uncontrollably. The next second, I was enveloped in a warm embrace. It was Euro. She held me tightly, her eyes burning with intensity. In a daze, I saw Trace waving to me as if saying, "Daddy, I like this and Stephanie. Since I'm gone, let her keep you company." So, under Drew's hopeful gaze, I hugged her back tightly. The next day, Drew and I held a quiet and beautiful funeral. It was the world belonging only to Chris and me. I smiled and said goodbye to her. Nearby was the weight swing set. As if she were still by my side, after everything was over, I saw Tila's figure at the cemetery entrance. She excitedly started to step forward to hug me, but her arms remained suspended in midair. Run, thank goodness, I finally found you. You're alright. I knew you'd be alright. You wouldn't leave me. I sneered, a look of utter disgust on my face, and spoke. I'm sorry, you're not worthy. She seemed not to have expected me to be so cold. Tila froze in place, but the next second she knelt directly before me, gravely begging on my knees. Ron, I've already punished everyone who hurt you and Chris. Will you come home with me? Let's start over, I promise. Before she could finish, I coldly interrupted. Home? How dare you mention Rome, Tila, when you locked our daughter in the reptile exhibit at the city zoo? Did you think about Rome when you threw me into Oakwood Psychiatric Hospital? Did you consider home? Tila was speechless, stifled by my words. Only when the sorrow and despair in her eyes were about to spill over did she slowly speak. Ron, you're right. I let you and our child down. I don't deserve to be a mother. I said I wouldn't let anyone who hurt you go unpunished, including myself. You'll prove it to you. After saying this, Tila pulled a divorce agreement from her pocket. At a glance, I recognized it as a guarantee we had signed when we got married. It stated that if Tila ever did anything to run wrong in the future, she would voluntarily relinquish all claims to the marital assets. She held the pen pause for a long time before finally writing Tila on the paper as if it took all her strength. After handing me the divorce agreement, Tila seemed to want to say something more, but I didn't give her any chance. I walked away, my arm around Ruth. Without looking back. The next day I saw Tila on the news. She repeatedly rammed her body against the zoo's glass doors until they cracked. The glass shards cut into her body, but she rushed in without hesitation, shouting, "Chris, Mommy is so sorry. I let you get hurt. Don't be afraid. I'm coming to join you." Before I could grasp what she meant, a raging fire erupted inside the reptile exhibit at the city zoo, instantly engulfing Tila. After only the sound of crackling and pouting, Tila's entire body was reduced to alcohol. I stared blankly at her remains, stunned for a long while before coming back to my senses. I never imagined she would atone for her sins to our daughter in such a way. My eyes involuntarily boiled with tears. A life extinguished is like a lamp blown out. The past cannot be reclaimed. After a long moment, I lifted my hand and hugged my daughter's memorial photo tightly to my chest. I sat on the nearby white decorative garden spinner, with Drew gently pushing me from behind as a light breeze brushed my face. Around me, I seemed to hear my daughter's sweet laughter. In that moment, I let go of all my pain. I thought my daughter must be smiling down at me from above. Closing my eyes, I prayed that in our next life, we could still be father and daughter. This time, I will definitely protect you.